Welcome back. The federal government continues to collaborate with states as it moves to reopen the economy after weeks of lockdown as one of the measures put in place to curbing the threat of COVID-19. According to the chairman of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19, the reopening process will be in phases spanning a total of 6 weeks, broken into 3 tranches of 2 weeks each. The same gradual approach is being adopted in Lagos as the governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, also released guidelines to include commercial motorcycle operation across the state remains suspended, tricycles limited to carrying only 2 passengers, commercial buses allowing to load 60% capacity with all air conditioners off, all commuters must wear masks and gloves. Banks and other companies are allowed to work between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. with only a maximum of 60% capacity on ground, while other staff are to work from home. Places of worship as well as beaches, clubs, gyms, salons, cinemas, swimming pool remain closed until further notice. Schools also remain closed, but are advised to use their digital space to teach and engage students. Markets are to open on designated days between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m., while eateries, restaurants are to open between the same time with only take-away services. Lagos, Ogun, and the Federal Capital Territory have been on lockdown in the last 4 weeks. Joining us for more on restarting the economy in phases is an economist, Professor Mike Ikopolati. He joins us from our Abuja studios. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure being here with you.
All right. Now, health researchers are saying that managing the virus will be a long-term gain. Or game, so to speak. That means COVID-19 will impact the economy for months and even possibly years. So how do we go about restarting the economy?
Well, the post-COVID-19 era in Nigeria is going to be a very difficult economic situation. Currently, the IMF has said that there's likely going to be a reduction in the global economic growth by about 3% this year. And Nigeria is even likely to be more affected. There are a lot of, because of the lockdown due to COVID-19, there are a lot of sectors that are being paralyzed, especially the travel and tourism sector, the manufacturing industry, and some other vital sectors of the economy are being paralyzed. And so what will likely happen at the end or in the long run is that the Nigerian economy is going to be facing a difficult time. And government needs to look at it and take a holistic approach and begin to think and look beyond the actual health situation that we have in Nigeria now.
So indeed, what are the measures or steps that government can begin to take? And this is looking at the federal government on one hand and then the states as well on the other hand, especially to restore investor confidence to getting the economies working. Professor? All right, for some reason, we seem to have lost our guest there. We'll probably try and get a hold of him a little later on. But we hear that 42 samples of Almajiri returnees from Kano State to Bauchi have been collected for COVID-19 testing. Also, 7 doctors have gone into self-isolation after coming in contact with a COVID-19 patient. The governor in the state there during the inaugural expanded weekly briefing on COVID-19 gave those updates. But here's our correspondent, Hajira Aliyu, with more.
There's no end in sight, at least for now, to the global pandemic because the number of cases keep rising. When you come to schools like this, what you get is an eerie silence, or sometimes children from the neighborhood that have come to play. Schools have not seen activities for weeks. Children and students and parents have been forced to stay at home. Most of the classroom doors are shut. We've seen response plans by the state governments in collaboration with UNICEF and some broadcast media organizations. Yesterday, a learning radio and television program was launched, and this is meant to target 1.7 million pupils at home, especially those in the rural areas. Community radios, of course, are expected to broadcast some of these programs. To speak about this is Comrade Jaffer, who is a lecturer and a parent. Comrade, what are some of the setbacks caused by the pandemic on the education sector?
Well, without mincing words, the multiplier effect or consequences of this pandemic on the educational system cannot be overemphasized, because you know that the pupils at the primary school level, most of them are just about doing their second term examinations. Those in the secondary school, some have already written their JAM in anticipation of gaining admission into tertiary institutions, while awaiting, the WAEC and NECO, which also are prerequisite for gaining admission into the tertiary institution. At the tertiary level, ASU is on strike, yes, but the polytechnics and colleges of education are in session, but the circular from the Federal Ministry of Education put on hold virtually all educational activities. Nobody can rightfully say, the impact, the severity of the impact on the educational system.
Okay. Thank you very much, Comrade. There's no doubt that one of the hardest hit sector is the education sector. That's the update we have for now from Bauchi State. I'm Hajara Aliyu, Channels Television.
Thank you, Hajara. I'm here. We have Professor Ikupolati back on right now. Professor, welcome back. Just quickly to ask you how indeed we can restore investor confidence and make the best of perhaps a bad situation.
Yes, I was saying that getting the economy on track again will require a lot of collaborative effort between the federal government and the sub-national government in Nigeria. And also, the private sector will also have to cooperate with the government to ensure that there is an improvement in the economic situation after the COVID-19 era. One of the major sectors that will be affected is the manufacturing sector. And I will expect that government should come out with a robust economic reform that will give a lot of palliative to the manufacturing sector to enable them to come back to form. Support such as extending credit line to the manufacturing and the SMEs in Nigeria, reducing infrastructural costs to the manufacturing sector, provide the short-term funding to them, and providing supply chain support to most of the manufacturing industry. These are some of the things that will make the manufacturing industry to come up again after COVID-19. Again, government will also need to use a lot of diplomatic approach to handling relationship that will enable everyone to cooperate with government after this COVID-19. You see, economic rejuvenation requires that government packages are believed by the people. There is the need for people to trust government policy on bringing back the economic to form. And that will require diplomatic approach to managing relationship between the federal and the state government, and also between the public and private sector in Nigeria. So a lot of systemic intervention will be required on the part of the government to bring the economy to form. If you look at it, government must also not depend on too much on external support, because most of the places where government can turn to are also currently facing the same situation, such as America, UK, and some other
Professor, we'll definitely have to bring you back as we ease into, opening up to businesses. We'd like to thank you. Wish we could get more of your insights, but we appreciate your time. Professor Mike Ikupolati, President, Chartered Institute of Public Diplomacy and Management. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure.
Right, and the UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson has chaired his first cabinet meeting and delivered his first press conference since recovering from COVID-19. He apologized for being away for so long and says he is not going to delegitimize the challenges facing getting PPE for healthcare workers or the frustrations experienced in expanding numbers of tests. But he says his message to the public is your efforts, your sacrifice is working and has been proved to work. From the NCDC, our Muslim brothers and sisters taking part in Ramadan must observe all prayers and meals within their homes, as no gatherings are allowed. The center continues to work closely with states. You can find the latest national strategy to scale up access to testing. That's our COVID-19 update at this time. Another update comes your way again at 9 p.m. I'm Minister Tunwoka. Stay safe.